Okay, this next video, how do we graph y equals 2 cosine of 3x in radians and in degrees? And we're telling you to use example 3 on page 401 to help. Right, helps to think about the transformations. Right, what transformations did we have? We know that we had a vertical stretch. We know that we had a vertical stretch by a factor of 2 and a horizontal compression by 3. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit harder to draw. Okay, why is this going to be harder to draw? Well, let's start with how I would set this up pattern-wise. My typical period for y equals the cosine of x is 2 pi. Right? If I compress horizontally by a factor of 3, my new period is 2 pi over 3, which is the same as 120 degrees. So what that means is the time it's going to take to repeat myself is going to be 120 degrees. Okay. Now the vertical stretch, that's telling me that instead of going from -1 to +1, my range is going to go from -2 to +2. So when x is 0, right? When x is 0, 2 cosine of 0 is going to be equal to 2. So this is where I am. Okay. Then what's going to happen? Right? It's going to be 120 degrees, right? 120 degrees, which if I could think of, right, how to get to 90 degrees, right? I could think of kind of breaking it up this way, right? Where here's 30 degrees, here's 60 degrees, there's 90 degrees, right? Then to get to 120 degrees would be the space that it takes to repeat. Right, and at 60 degrees, so that right there is going to be what it takes to get to a minimum. Halfway between those 2 points, I'd be at a minimum. Right, and the same thing going this way at -120 degrees. Right, and then halfway between, I'd be at a minimum. So I could see, hey, my graph, right, is going to look a little something like that. Okay. Now, where am I going to cross the x-axis? Well, I'm going to cross the x-axis at these other positions here. I'm going to cross the x-axis at these other positions, right? So that I know that if I have 120 degrees and I split 120 degrees into sets of 4, that's 30, 60, 90, 120, and so I'm going to be right at 0 degrees, right? 0 degrees, a maximum, 0 minimum, 0 maximum, right? That if I go maximum, 0, minimum, 0, maximum, maximum, 0, minimum, 0, maximum. And I'm going to have that same pattern. It's going to set up in much the same way, right? And if I was going to draw it in radians, the same setup, the same setup in radians, right? So this is 2, there's -2. So here's 2, here's -2. I get it set up here, right? So start at a maximum, right? I'm going to go and become 0. Okay, I'm going to go and be 0, and then I'm going to be a minimum, then I'm going to come back up, right? So I'm going to go to 0, go to a minimum, come back up, go to a maximum, right? 0, minimum, 0, maximum, right? And that period is a compression, so you notice that the time or the space that it takes to repeat is a lot less, right? Where this value, right over here is going to be 2 pi over 3, right? Because 2 pi over 3 is going to be that new period, and that's going to be the space that it takes to repeat. Very, very important that we can work with those concepts.